That's when the real work begins. No, that's when you're like. Nice to meet you. I'll probably come to see you.
They got 10 girls. Just right there, you can't see them, right?
Yeah.
It's a crime, basically.
Hey, look at, let's go.
It stops right where Ellie's right neon. Yeah, I can see Ellie. I can't see Ellie now. No. But Emma, if you need, I can scooch it. I can move it if you're gonna be over there.
Good, how are you? We already had somebody on there. Nice.
So yeah, so they, so we're gonna slow it down. It's not And then it's only like 3 hour drive to there. So we're gonna go for like parts of cloud, either seeing 60 degrees. But yeah, part it'll be fun. I haven't done like I was like I used to I'm so excited.
Never do buy fast.
There's a good terminal. This is so just in general. I was so excited when I heard it was
Right there. They must have left it.
your podcast should be coming out. Dude, I'm just checking. Mr. Hubbard just has to post it back in the because I thought it was going to be the next one coming down, but then the other one's like one. It's fine. It's fine. As long as it's coming out, it will. It's all that matters.
I didn't want to be all right in space.
Do you know if any police departments are here? A lot of family members are. Have you been working on anything?
Go ourselves.
Good evening and thank you for coming. Really appreciate everyone being here. Thank you for coming to the 2024 Capstone presentations. We really appreciate the fact that you're here to see the work these students have done. As you look at the photos that scroll behind me on the screen, I want you to look at a few things. One, I want you to look at the lovely eyes, the smile on their face, and the beauty of their character. These people all touched so many people while they were alive. But unfortunately, someone took them from us. We didn't get to meet them. But I think over the year, we've really gotten to know some of them pretty well. Some of them fell into a risky lifestyle. Others ran into the wrong person. And some of them just had no chance to get out of what was going to happen to them. Now, we've all lost loved ones in our life. Most of us have lost them to death, to age, to disease, but we knew what happened to them. Unfortunately, the family members and friends of these individuals still have no answers to what's going on. They should not be remembered for what happened to them, but for who they were. And that's what we're trying to do tonight. To lose someone to murder and then not have answers, or the case goes cold, is a pain that I can't understand. But I know to them, it happens over and over. It's daily, it's weekly, it's yearly, for some it's been decades. Now, that person that committed the crime is still out there somewhere, and the families still don't have answers. That's kind of the goal of what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring these stories back into the light and hope that somebody along the way will see this, see the work the students have done, and hopefully bring information that maybe one day will lead to justice for the family. I have a lot of thank yous to say. First, I want to say thank you to everybody here. Thank you to all those that are online watching today. We really appreciate the fact that you took your time out of your day to do this. The stories that we're telling are stories that need to be heard. And we hope that when you leave here, you may be able to, look up other cases and get information out about these cases and see what we're trying to do. I want to say thank you to the administration. Sean, you was here, and I was talking to her earlier today. We had a really in-depth conversation about starting this class. And I had to convince her that this is going to be okay. And I said, we're not going to do anything crazy. Everybody's going to be okay. But I had some great help to help explain to her what we're trying to do. And the administration's been great. I don't think you're going to find a class like this anywhere in the state of Ohio. I do know there's a few outside of Ohio, but the reason they're there is because of us. They called us and asked us what we've done and things like that. So I know there's other schools that are doing it now, but I don't think you're going to find this anywhere else in the state of Ohio. It's an opportunity that I think the students are going to treasure forever. I want to say thank you to the parents. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing your students to do this. Without you, we don't have this class. I think you're going to be proud of what your students have done. And I hope that you understand the lessons they have learned along the way. This isn't easy. And many of them got a lot of their information early and then got nothing for a really long time. Some of them didn't get anything at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, a couple weeks before the presentation, they started getting all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of a balancing act, how to do all this and get ready for this presentation. I want to say thank you to the families of the victims. I can't imagine what it's like to have a high school teacher and some students call you and ask you to relive probably the worst day of your life. Well, what you'll find is that they appreciate it. They appreciate the fact that somebody cares. And our students have done a great job showing that they care about their victim and who they're representing tonight. I want to say thank you to detectives that have talked to us, the coroners who have talked to us. We have Mr. Chad Jones, who has volunteered his time to come in and talk to us. He now works for the Florida County Coroner's Office. He was a detective for Dayton for quite a long time. He just pops in every once in a while since he talks to us and things like that. So there's a lot of people that have been involved that we want to thank for this. And the last thing I want to do is I want to thank the students. I'm getting old. I'm entering in my career. And without them, I don't know if I'm going to make it. But what I mean by that is they have brought something back out of me that I didn't know I had. I've learned so much from them, and I swear I'm looking to do this. And I just want to say that they are outstanding kids, and I really appreciate all that they've done. And I got that out of the way. So tomorrow. I hope I don't do it again. But anyway, some of the things about the class, the goals of this class are pretty simple. I wanted to teach them life skills. And I got this through a student 2 years ago, 3 years ago, actually, 5 years ago. We were sitting together talking about cold cases and started one on our own. And we've been doing it now for about 6 years. And as we were doing it, he's teaching me how to cyber thought, basically. He's teaching me how to find connections. I'm teaching him how to ask the right questions. And I got to thinking, wow, what a great way to teach students some lessons they can use in life. And some of those lessons are organizational skills, communication skills, which we're lacking a lot of these days. But these guys have done a great job doing that. They would call somebody and ask me to help, and I said no. You're making phone call. I'm just going to sit here. They have learned to organize. They've learned to work in groups, which is not always easy. And they've really taken this to heart to learn something along the way. They've learned how to fight through obstacles. And I think that's the biggest part of this. And I think that's the biggest part for people who work with real cold cases in the police department, things like that, is obstacles. How do you work around them? How do you get those things that get in the way? How do you still get that information? One of the biggest things I wanted to get out of them was empathy. Trying to understand what other people are doing, how it affects their lives. Okay, this is something most of us have not experienced, and for us to be able to call them and talk to them, you got to be able to do it the right way. And I think these students have done a great job of doing that. One of the things I would say in our podcast is real education meets real life. What a great way to learn real life stories when you're dealing with people that have lost loved ones this way. And the last one is kind of serve our community. Why not, as we're learning all these skills, help the community? And hopefully someday we'll get something out that maybe will turn something around. We do have a couple cases this year where we found some information that has maybe sparked the case a little bit more. And hopefully one day we'll find the right one and get that answer. So I want to say thank you again. Really appreciate it. Without further ado, we're going to start our presentation now. Thank you.
It was a hot summer night in Cleveland, Ohio. The old stadium was hosting a World Series of Rock concert, which featured Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the band, and Santana. The crowd was drunk and high on anything they could find, and within the drunk crowd was a young girl. Linda Pagana, an avid rock listener, was with her at-the-time boyfriend, Steve Wilson, in the crowd. As the concert ended, Linda drove her and her boyfriend home in her new Ford Mustang. Little did she know that was the last time she would ever be in that Ford Mustang. I'm Katie Smithy. I'm Audrey Holford.
And I'm Sarah Bailey. As a disclaimer, we just want to start with saying that we're not accusing anyone of murdering Linda, and all the information we found is kind of from just the internet. The information about the autopsy report and the missing persons report comes directly from the Cuyahoga County Record. We don't have the permission to share with you the autopsy report, but we do have permission to just speak about it. And due to this case just being decades old, we may find holes in the case and have questions along the way, but we promise you will have tons of questions just like that. And this is the mystery of Linda Pagana.
Linda was the youngest of three to her mother Ann and stepfather Byron Coughlin. Byron owned a bar and was known to be a heavy drinker. He was also known for the abuse of his younger children. Linda's best friend, who we were not able to get in contact with, but we found that she spoke about her Highland Beacon Journal. She said that Linda was on top of the world that summer. Sigmund also said that she was so much fun to be around, and she also added how her family seemed to be great. Linda got good grades, had a lot of friends, seemed to be an overall good kid. Her mother Ann lived in a mobile home, and she was able to visit her often.
Linda did not live with her mother due to the fact that her mom was actually dating someone pretty close in age to Linda. But Linda had her own boyfriend, Steve Wilson, and he was a couple years older.
After Linda dropped her boyfriend off at home, it was around September 1st at 4 in the morning when Linda arrived to her stepfather's apartment where she was far from happily greeted. In the missing persons report, it read the next morning that Bill and her stepfather got into a fight, which we now know is because of how late she lived home. It continues to read that after the fight, she left and was supposed to go to her mother's home, but she did not show up. Instead, she left her car at her father's address, and we did not know why. Why and how did Linda supposedly leave without her car? She just magically disappeared. Linda's best friend and mother had figured she was just
After she went missing, her siblings were devastated and only wanted her home. It wasn't until February 5th, 1975, that Linda's story picks up again, when three young boys, Ronald and Donald Miller and Charles Martin, found some bones on a sandbar on the east bank of the Rocky River Metropolitan Park.
When the boys returned home, they contacted the Bureau of Police, who then contacted park rangers. When the park rangers arrived at the scene, they identified that they were in fact human remains. An autopsy report was done, and it found that it was a white female in her late teens, early 20s, and she had sustained a gunshot wound to the head. It was then ruled as a homicide.
At this point, the bones were still unidentified, and she was a complete Jane Doe. The body was subtotally skeletonized, many leaves, branches, and mud filled in the body cavities. A small amount of white skin was still found on the back, and the report also said there was a formation of adipocere, which is a gray waxy substance formed by the decomposition of soft tissue, specifically subjected to moisture, meaning that the body was close to or in the water. Both hands and wrists were absent, the left foot and ankle were absent, along with the right ankle and foot. The anterior costal cartilages and sternum are completely missing, along with the mandible and the hyoid bone. Some bones had gnaw marks along them, which we assume would be from animals since the body was left outside. The maxilla, which is the upper jaw, only contains teeth 2, 3, 5, 14, and 15, plus an uninterrupted number 16. All other teeth are missing.
With the exception of the skull, the body had no other injury, malformation, or deformities, which made us believe that this person actually had no struggle in the gunshot wound killed them instantly. The autopsy report showed that a .25 caliber bullet fit snugly through the skull, which went through the front temporal bone.
The exit wound is in the right anterior temporal bone. There was no stippling in the wound or none left, meaning that the bullet left no leftovers. We don't know a ton about guns, so we asked an expert at our school, Mr. Kreger, who is a current science teacher and an avid hunter. He told us that a .25 caliber gun is as small as someone's hand. He also told us that they are centerfire case bullets and push through the center. He said that these are not distance guns, which made us believe that this person was very close to Linda for the bullet to go directly through the skull. We believe that the victim knew this person since they were so close to them.
15 years later, in 1990, Byron Hawkins passes away, and the main person of interest could no longer be contacted. At this point, Linda's body still had not been identified, so his passing did not happen. From info we learned in the Beacon Journal, we learned that Byron was physically and verbally abusive to two of his children, Cheryl and Michael. According to the Toronto Sun, Byron Hawkins was a heavy bruiser whose hair-triggered temper was told him he was a drug. They also said when he was pissed, he dragged the kids out of bed and lifted with a glass of milk and beer drum. He'd also tell them how much he hated them. Linda, though, he really hated. He pretty much left it.
The two siblings also said that Linda would always get along with Byron. We have a theory that Byron might have had some sexual relations onto Linda. We also think that this is probably why they always had a good relationship on the outside. So the second that he did have control over Linda when she arrived late home from the concert is when he got really upset and could have led to him shooting her. Again, this is only a theory, and we don't have any real evidence that this could happen, but just
By the time 2015 rolls around, Linda's body still had not been identified. That wasn't until Christina Skates, a local Cleveland college student, finds reference to an unmarked grave where the unidentified remains have been held. Using genealogy, she added the bones to the national database that the Akron police found. We tried to get in contact with Christina Skates, but she would not answer our multiple Facebook messages. On the left is a photo of Skates, just circa 2015. And then the top right is the portrait project. It's pretty similar to what we had going on here in her case. She was tagged in multiple of these Facebook posts. She commented on multiple of them. And she's basically working in Cleveland to try to make cases, to work on cold cases. So we thought that was promising, but that's not. On the bottom right is a picture of what we believe to be Linda in 2015. It is actually drawn by one of Christina's colleagues that she worked with closely at Cleveland State University.
Finally, in 2016, the Akron police found the bones in the national database and suspected that they could have belonged to Linda, and so they exhumed them immediately. Following that, in 2018, DNA tests confirmed that the body in 1975 was in fact Linda's.
So when they were reported to the scene, it was actually Lieutenant Don Silvas. He still actually worked for the County Police Department. We tried to contact him multiple times, but unfortunately, we were not able to contact him. We understand he's really busy since he still works there, but it would have been helpful to know some more information.
Next, we tried to reach out to Michael Pagano, who was the only sibling of Linda's that was still alive. He did not have a number or an email that we could find, so we were left to do snail mail. We sent him multiple letters, but all of them looked like this and got returned to sender. So we were never really able to get in contact with him. Paula Sheelis, who's a part of Ohio Mystery Podcast, emailed us back immediately with full support of our work. She sent us various photos and told us that we could email her with any questions that we had. We were really thankful she answered us, so thank you, Paula. We would also like to thank Dr. Thomas Gilson, Hugh Shannon, and Elizabeth Sherwood, who all work for the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiners. Thomas gave us all the autopsy info, which was really rewarding to look at. He also gave us the permission to present some of that information today. So huge thank you to all three of them.
Our final theory we have is that the rock concert Linda attended. In the autopsy report we were given, there were no drugs that were able to be traced on the Linda's body. But from information found online about the concert, it was known that drugs were heavily used. This could include LSD and cocaine, which causes users many effects like euphoria, confusion, and perceptual changes. Along with the missing person report filed, Linda was known to be a smoker, which caused us to believe she could have possibly been on drugs that night, but that is just a theory. So since Linda's murder again is from 1974, we may have found some holes in our case. So those holes could have been just from miscommunication with the Akron Police and Cuyahoga County Police Departments. Linda lived in Akron with her stepfather, but she was actually found in the Cleveland Metroplex in Cuyahoga County. So back in 1974, obviously, I think our communication wasn't as good as it is now. So there definitely could have been some miscommunication there. When we called the Akron Police, they actually told us that all of the files from the 1970s have been thrown away, including Linda's. So, which didn't really make sense since this case is technically still open. They don't know each other. So that was something we learned about that we had to do with. Another thing that we had to adapt to was that since it's so old again, that most of her family members and witnesses and friends actually passed away since then. Recently, her sister Cheryl Pagano passed away in 2022. So we send all our condolences to them, but that's something that's pretty important. Another thing we had to work through was the fact that we were unable to contact Steve Wilson. Due to his name being so common, we were unable to find anything about him. He was not mentioned in any of the articles which we did.
Our final thought is about the gun that was used. It was a 25 caliber gun, which is about the size of your hand. Not to be stereotypical, but we were thinking about the size of the gun and we thought that maybe men use more showy guns or bigger guns and that type of way, so we think that maybe a woman could have been using the gun that was used, but that is only a thought that we have.
Yeah, so that gun could easily fit in your purse or maybe your back pocket. Byron Claflin, something to also think about is Byron Claflin owned a bar. So you think the owner of a restaurant, maybe could be walking around on a Saturday night and just protecting, that's their bar, they own it. Maybe it's one of like their babies. So they are protecting that, and then they have that, he could put that gun in his pocket as self-defense if someone came to rob them and wanted to disturb the bar. So that could be something. And again, at that time, there was no serial number or registration of the gun. They were just strings to get.
Learning about Linda's case and trying to find more information on it has been such a rewarding experience for us. If this case got you wondering, or if you have any information, please contact the Akron or Cuyahoga County Police Departments. If you don't feel comfortable, you can always contact Cold Case at the email or number on the board. We hope Linda's case and family can be brought to closure they deserve. I'm Pete Suzuki.
I'm Audrey Bowman, and I'm Sarah Barron. Lastly, we just want to thank Mr. Hubbard for all his work this year. It really has not been unnoticed, and he helped us think outside the box all the time this year. And now we'll open the floor to any questions about it.
Yes.
Did the police in this case, did they have any prime suspects, people they interviewed, or anything like that? Was it the stepfather, or did you guys have any information on that?
Their main person of interest was the stepfather. That was really the only person that we saw information about. We thought that maybe the boyfriend would have been someone they were interested in, but the stepfather was the only real suspect they had.
So, since he was the main suspect that you're talking about, do we know why he was kind of let off the hook there?
I mean, I want to say it's because there wasn't really enough evidence to prove that he was the real perpetrator.
Obviously, we just kind of use some thought of it. We don't have anything there to bring out and we can really think that we did. There's no evidence in what was it? Correct. Just been different.
So what was your biggest issue with this case? To give you one, what was it?
Probably just contacting people. There was some, we couldn't contact your best friend, who emailed her on LinkedIn, get anything from that. Probably Lieutenant Johnson was with my leads roadblock. He was he went to the park when they reported that phone with them. He was the person that said, okay, these are new names. So he definitely would have been someone I to talk to. And he was in the office. They said he was in the office, but we called probably 30 times. Yeah. And he didn't answer. And left it in the voicemail.
Anyone else? Yeah.
As the clock struck 6:30 a.m. on Dawn's ordinary morning drive, February 20th, 2013, there was an announcement on the radio. A shooting in Parkwood Avenue, Dayton, Ohio. Dawn called her son, Ryan Miles, asking him to find the news on the television. And when she couldn't, she then phoned the hospital and the police searching for answers. Not a moment later did she receive a call from the coroner's office instructing her to pull over. That is when the crushing truth unfolded. Her daughter had been taken away by violence. Shock engulfed her, leaving her breathless in isolation as she found her way to a nearby friend's house driven by a fog of disbelief and despair. In this room among us today, there may be those who have felt the same gut-wrenching feeling that nobody should ever have to feel. The questions, the disbelief, why me, why me, echoing in the chaos of it all. Jillian's children, innocent witnesses to the brutality. Can you see them? Can you feel their ache of losing a mother, clinging on to the only semblance of normalcy left? The loving embrace of their grandmother, Dawn. Today, let us not only honor Jillian's story, but the countless others whose lives have been taken away by senseless acts of violence. Let us recognize the resilience and the strength of those affected. And today, let's find hope in each other's stories. My name is Claire Berry. I'm Cassie Sutton. And my name is Avery Glenn. Today, we will be taking you through the cold case of Jillian Miles. In order to better understand our case, we would like to begin by building a foundation on the most important aspects. Who was Jillian Miles? Jillian was a loving mother of two who was social and loved by everyone who met her. Her mother, Dawn Miles, described Jillian as a beautiful girl who just kept getting more beautiful as she grew up. We cannot stress how important these two kids were to her. Her dreams were to be a stay-at-home mom and provide for her children. Unfortunately, wanting to be a stay-at-home mom led her to be unemployed often, and being unemployed led her to have a lower income, therefore putting her at a high risk. She did get involved with drugs, and that is how she made a ton of money. On February 19th, in 2013 at 9 p.m., police received a call regarding gunshots. When they arrived at the house, Jillian was found on the landing of her steps in her living room. The bathwater or shower water was running, assuming that she was probably trying to bathe her kids as they were sitting in the living room along with their dog. She was found on the landing of her steps with 2 gunshot wounds and also additional blunt force trauma. All of the front, back, and side doors of the house were locked upon arrival of the police. I would like to take you to the timeline of events leading up to the crime. Before I begin, the names will be redacted for privacy reasons and we will be using initials today. On February 15th, 2013, Dawn received a call from Jillian asking for $500. When Dawn questioned why she wanted the money, she said she wouldn't understand. Dawn assumed that it was for her 2 kids, and that she said that she would bring her, and she did, bring her baby formula and food and things of the sort, like anything for her kids that help. Later, Dawn did inform us that one of her friends, Lisa Miller, did think that she was going to use her money for something towards drugs, unfortunately. And that is why Dawn didn't want to give her the straight cash. On February 19, 2013, witnesses saw Jillian arguing with Dawn. They saw her coming out of her house as they were arguing, which is how we know this happened. R was the father of her 2 kids, and also the love of her life, yet they were not married. R also had an involvement with drugs, and he was often violent towards her. That same day, at some point, Jillian was also visited by Dee, who we believe that she was dating a few months prior. Dee also had an involvement in drugs, and he may have even been supplying her, but that is not confirmed. Later at 9 p.m., Jillian was presumably running a bath or shower, and for unknown reasons, she went downstairs, and that was when she was shot at the landing of her stairs. Dawn Miles wasn't contacted until later that day, the next day. "160 West Parkwood is a duplex in Dayton, Ohio. Jillian lived on the left side, and as you can see in the small picture, there's a door on the side of the house. That door is the door that leads to the landing of the stairs where the body was found. Witnesses saw a man with a hood run out of this door around the time of the murder. All the doors on her house had locks, however, the locks were easily broken and had been broken before. She was known to keep a couch pushed up against her front door to prevent anybody from getting in through the front door. We also analyzed our investigation through looking through her autopsy report.
This was provided thanks to Dawn, and we looked through this 10-page document to find any clues that would lead us to a clue on who may have done this. We have a few things we would like to highlight.
So as it was stated previously, Jillian was shot twice by the shooter. One of the wounds was a gunshot wound to the neck, which was on the anterior side of her body. This means she would have had to have been facing the shooter at the time of the shooting. There was stifling around the wound, which would be gunpowder lining it. This means the person would have had to have been in a closer or even an intermediate range to her, as stifling only occurs if the person is within 2.5 feet. So the person would have had to have been anywhere between 1 and 2.5 feet of her. This took a downward angle. It went through the skin, soft tissue of her anterior neck, her left brachiopelvic vein, which would be located around her clavicle, her left lateral root 7, and the soft tissue of her lateral chest. We believe that this was the second shot, and that the gunshot wound to the abdomen would have been the first shot, because there was no stifling around that wound. This also would put her to a closer perspective to the shooter, as she was bent over in pain from the first shot. The gunshot wound to the abdomen, it went through the right quadrant of her lower abdomen. This would also explain why there was no presence of stifling as the shooter was farther away from her. The projectile was also recovered from her colon, and there was additional blunt force trauma. There was an abrasion on her left cheek, and there was also an contusion on her right thigh. And the cause of death was ruled by the gunshot of the neck by Susan Allen. Further, there was a toxicology report taken on her. There was tetrahydrocholine present, which is at high risk for substance abuse. This doesn't mean that she was abusing it, but since she was in that lifestyle, it could possibly be one of the reasons why. But she did at one point tell her mom about a year ago before she passed that she was going to Suboxone treatments. Now that would be if you're going to try to get off such a high substance drug. So it does mean that she was trying to find some sort of way to help her get off of those. So she was trying to better herself in that way.
Throughout our research, we were able to identify 3 people who had the ability, motive, and means to do such a thing to Jillian. As Claire said, for privacy reasons, we have redacted all of the names, and we will be referring to them by their initials. And we are not accusing anybody, we are just stating some facts that we know on who has the best chance of doing this.
The first person we looked into was the father of her 2 children. We are calling him R. Him and her dated on and off for multiple years, but it wasn't necessarily a healthy relationship, and it was more on the toxic side. He never really officially claimed the kids as his that we know of until after her death, and it is known that she was sexually abused by him, and he also had counts of drugs on his reports. With her getting involved, it could have caused a lot of tension and drama in between those 2 and their relationship, and it could have caused him to have an outbreak and do whatever he felt needed.
We also looked at D. D supplied Jillian with her drugs, and it was found out that Jillian had been pinching those drugs. So if he would sell them to her, she would take a little bit out and then sell them at full price. So there could have been a little bit of disagreement there, and he was seen approaching her at her house earlier that day. The other part would be there is a speculation of their relationship. They went on a date a few days prior to the murder, but she was still somewhat loyal to the father of her children. So there might have been some jealousy there. However, she had been with him before.
The last person we wanted to look into, we're calling L, and it was known that he wanted to be in a relationship and was in love with Jillian, but she did not feel the same way towards him. We also don't know why, but he was known driving a car under her name, but we tried to kind of dig and find any reasons, but we were unfortunate.
We now have 4 quick audio clips we would like for you guys to listen to. They are from an interview with Jillian's mother, Dawn. Just some quick questions that we asked her to answer about Jillian.
these two children are so wonderful. And they're beautiful. And they look just like you. I see you in their eyes, in their mouth. The girl, Kayla, she acts just like you. Rayshawn, the boy, he's so popular and he's athletic and he's got a smile that would knock anybody over. They're just beautiful and I'm so blessed to have them. And I hope I'm doing okay with them. Well, when this happened, my heart was ripped out and my life stopped.
Mhm.
And so to this day, I am reliving the call, the absence, the everything. And then for her to leave behind two beautiful children makes it even more heartbreaking. What I would do if it was solved is I really want to speak to the person. Whatever answer or not, I still want to look them in the eye. If this was solved, I can now basically learn to move on without her and try to gain my happiness of some kind. I know you loved her, and I know it was a fit of jealousy, but you took a lot away when this happened. If it was you and you lost your daughter or son, how would you feel? You would want somebody to come forward. You would want to put your child to rest, knowing that you've done everything. And that's all I want. I want somebody to come forward, and I know there's people out there that know it, because it's not fair. And always remember, if it was you, how would you feel? You would want something done.
Continue on with Don was saying, if this happened to you, you would want something done about it. So please, any information on Jillian's case, don't hesitate to reach out to the Dayton Police Department at the number below. If you would like to remain anonymous, you can also call Crimes Office at this number. You can also feel free to contact us at our email below, police@masonohioschools.com. We would also like to take a minute. From the information that we gathered today, we wouldn't have it without these people, so we would like to thank these people below. We would like to extend a special thank you to the family of Jillian. We can't even imagine all the pain you've gone through, yet you were still so willing to work with us, and we thank you for that. Thank you all so much for your time, and we now have a few minutes for any questions.
Can you clarify whether there was forced entry in the house or not? It sounded like you said all the doors were locked. And if that's the case, would you guys consider that the person had key to get in?
When the police arrived, all the doors were locked. So they saw the man exit through the side door. However, the door was locked behind him, so he took the time to lock behind him. But the locks were also pretty touchy, so there could have been a fourth entry, but it would have been easy to cover up.
Was the weapon ever found that was used? Is that why there's like no evidence about
Yeah.
who they could go after?
There was no weapon ever found. However, I believe all three of the suspects were known to own guns.
There was also a mean dog there, and it was mean to everyone except for unless he knew the person. And the children wore their mama's blood on them. I'm not her sister. I just help grandma with the kids and help give them a mom figure outside of grandma figure. We just want justice for the babies.
So was there anybody that witnessed the person leaving the house and were they able to provide a detailed description?
So with that, there was someone that did witness the person leaving the house, but it was dark outside. It was 9 p.m. And the person the only thing they could see was them running on the house and then wearing a hoodie with like an emblem on the back. Unfortunately, it didn't really do that as far as we know.
Okay, so there's no size description to compare them to R versus D and something like that.
And unfortunately, they all kind of do have the same stature, kind of sense, as far as we can tell.
Do they know what caliber the gun was versus the bullet? Because they matched up to any one of those three guys?
I don't believe so. I don't think. They had a size in the autopsy report, but we were not able to match that to anybody's specifics. Unfortunately, in this lifestyle too, some of the people involved are known to own multiple guns, so it wouldn't be just like, oh, they owned a gun unless it was a singular gun, if that makes sense. Or most of them own more than one.
Most of them.
Yeah.
So was it determined what hand the person was that based on the trajectory of the bullets, like right or left-handed, anything like that?
I believe right-handed, but I think all three of the subjects were also right-handed.
That might be, that's kind of a difficult thing to determine too. Thank you. If anybody, by the way, if anybody needs to step out, the restrooms are at the end of the hallway. Just do me a favor when you come back and then you go through the door, make sure you come in quietly and the door slams behind you.
As you blow out the flickering flame on your birthday candles, the joyful happy birthday cheering is suddenly interrupted by a knock at the door. Confusion creases your brow as you make your way to answer it, wondering who could be listening. The sight that greets you seems to shiver down your spine. 2 somber-faced police officers sitting solemnly on your doorstep, waiting to break some awful news. With a sinking feeling in your stomach, you usher them into your home as they exchange a glance of unspoken meaning. You realize that their unexpected visit marks the beginning of an unsettling journey. This cold case has had a final cabinet of Franklin County law enforcement for years. As you listen to their words, the story unfolds like the flickering flame of your birthday candles. And something suddenly becomes abundantly clear. The whispers of the past reverberate, and the present and past, excuse me, and the truth resurfaces even when the name carries layers of time. Join us as we dive into the immense world of cold cases, where the echoes of the past reverberate with promises of closure and justice for our chosen victim, Rebecca Lynn. I'm Izzy Dean. My name is Ellie Petrie. I'm Abby Field. And this is the story of our victim, Rebecca Lynn. On the damp morning of April 7, 2010, 4 female hikers embarked on a leisurely paddle along the waters of Big Darby Creek, seeking a peaceful adventure in the heart of Columbus. Little did they anticipate that their quiet outing would lead them to a chilling discovery. They continued to navigate the creek's gentle turns and muddy banks. Their eyes were drawn to an unexpected sight nestled among the greenery. A motionless, still, silent figure with a mixture of shock and curiosity, they approached. In that fateful moment, their tranquil day on the water gave way to a haunting encounter with the unknown as they bore witness to the reality of a life lost along the waters of the journey. After reporting their findings to the police, the case was put on the back burner because of the lifestyle that surrounded her stereotype. We started investigating Rebecca more in depth and were initially met with many complications, which left us to start with the basics. Google. Finding less than a dozen articles with various different information, it was hard to know what was accurate. We only got a paragraph or two describing the crime within these articles, and due to Rebecca's lifestyle, it wasn't uncommon for her to go missing for weeks or even months. Because of this, we don't know what went on between the time of November to April and Rebecca's timeline, which is when her mom reported her missing in March.
Without having this information on Rebecca's case, we needed to use a FOIA request to get her autopsy. The FOIA stands for Formal Freedom of Information Act, which we were able to use to get the autopsy from the Franklin County Police. This told us that she had been shot twice on the left side of her body near her heart, which we believe is the cause of her death. Using her autopsy, we were able to go to Miss Lehman, the Mason High School anatomy teacher, and use her classroom skeleton to directly pinpoint exactly where the bullet hit her. The flight path of the bullet angled down and showed us to believe that it was possibly a man whose color in her.
So the following audio that you're about to hear is a segment of a 35-minute phone call we had with Rebecca's father, Mr. Kenneth Wiley, and her sister Rachel. We hear from him.
Reddit. When I said that, she was hot tempered.
Yeah.
She had one of the personality, how did you know the person who walks in the room and demands attention, like was so funny.
Right.
So you're kind of, you want to be around them because they're popular, but you're also a little afraid of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's Becky. And she was beautiful and she was very protective of her family.
Rebecca was 5'6", lean, and had short, fiery red hair, which is how anybody in the area would immediately know what we were talking about before you mentioned her name. Rebecca's family confirmed that she got with a lot because of her irresistible charm, and that she was also a loving mother who would do anything for her kids and the people that she loved to return her mother.
Unfortunately, Rebecca lived a high-risk lifestyle. She worked as a sex worker for many years and decided to use substances, which eventually turned into an addiction. Although she lived this life, according to Rachel, it never interfered with her main job as a mother. Friends and family have told us that she was Maisie's mother. She was the definition of a mama bear and a protector. If you needed help, Rebecca was the first one there and ready to defend you. She was quick to stand up for what she knew was right and wasn't afraid to get involved. This landed her in jail multiple times, but because she was so charming and friendly, she was usually let off with a slap on the wrist and allowed to return to her daily life. Besides being an incredible mother, she was also a great friend. Everyone loved hanging out with her and they talked about how sweet she was, but she would let you know if you were an unwelcome presence in her life. She had a great support system, especially when she was pregnant with her first daughter, Katie, at 16, and her family never wavered to continue to support her through her pregnancy with her son named Ronnie Jr. and her youngest daughter, Angel. After weeks of investigating behind the scenes, we were eager to contact the people that were closest to Rebecca. The first place we visited was Franklin County Clerk website, where we researched Rebecca's name and took notes on every person attached to her name. We were also able to find Rebecca's obituary online, and on that obituary, you were able to make comments, and we found very many family and friends' comments that we left on that. From there, we continued to search up their names in the county records as well, so that we can mark who was maybe safe to talk to and further research, and who we should probably not talk to. After that, we were connecting with as many of her friends and family as possible through Facebook, and that landed us a couple conversations with her family and friends.
First, we contacted her father, Kenneth Wiley, and her childhood friend, Emily. We tried to get in contact with her oldest sister, Katie, but we were unable to get in contact with her. While on the phone with Kenneth, we were also able to talk to her sister, Rachel, and hear about their speculations about the case. Through them, we were able to bring forward new information to the Franklin County Police Department.
We were also able to talk to Emily in late October. Emily was sincere and gave us a backstory on Rebecca and her youth, as though they were very close through high school. And she would tell us many fond stories of them on Rebecca's front porch that always hung out there with her and her family. Emily also mentioned that Rebecca would take care of Emily's son occasionally if she needed some extra help. And after our October phone calls, we contacted the Franklin County Sheriff and Coroner's Office to get as much information on the case as possible. The Coroner's Office sent us her autopsy, toxicology, and coroner's report after we got in contact. We also contacted one of the detectives, Detective Thompson, who was able to have a Zoom call with us and spoke to us about the case and our findings. This was very helpful for us, and we were definitely able to use them for resources and get directions to our inquiries on the case.
So as you mentioned, we were able to contact Rebecca's family and get some information from them. During our phone call with them, some information was brought to light that we felt needed to be passed on to the law enforcement of Franklin County. But before we could do that, we needed some help. So we reached out to the resource officers at our school, Officer Schaefer and Officer Simmons. Using them, we came up with a Google document with all the information and what we're going to say, how we're going to say it, and what to pass on to the detectives. I would like to take a moment to thank Officer Schaefer and Officer Simmons for all that they've done for us so far this year. So once we were actually able to get into contact with Detective Thompson, we were able to pass on the information, which actually led to him being able to look into some more things and the case actually being reopened. So he's been looking into some more things, and he is actually going to be able to come visit us in April 4th. He's going to come down and do the case, and we're just going to be able to catch up a little bit, see what he's done, what we've been doing. So we would really like to thank Detective Thompson for all that he's done and for willingly speaking to us about what we found. So we did have a time period where we had nothing to do because we had Detective Thompson working, and we were still waiting to hear back from him a couple times. So we spent that time reaching out to more friends, more family, and just to learn more about Rebecca, who she was, and what the day-to-day would look like.
We were full of questions the whole time we investigated. One being, where was Rebecca initially killed? Based on where she was found, we do know she wasn't shot on the scene. This leads us to think that her body could have been found. This eventually brought us to Google Earth, and from there we searched Big Darby Creek and pinpointed where her body was found. Backtracking there, we found a bridge that would have been an easy access point for a suspect to dispose of Rebecca. And as we spoke to Rebecca's sister Rachel, 3 suspects came to mind: a trucker, a drug dealer, and a customer/alleged friend. With this information, the following steps we would take involves finding more on what happened to Rebecca within the time she was missing and found, and also what possibly happened right before she went missing. We had plans to meet with the detectives and look at her case file, but we haven't had a chance yet because, like Izzy said, he's very busy and he's coming in April. Yes. So.
As we researched the case, we became attached to Rebecca. We learned about her and made a connection with her story. Although the lifestyle she lived was not the most glamorous, it should not be what defined her. The love she showed her family and friends shows her true character. Following the case, we learned that Rebecca was found by 4 female hikers in Big Darby Creek. She had been shot twice on the left side of her body near her heart. We learned about Rebecca's character after spending time with her family and friends. She was more than an addict and a sex worker. She was also a loving mother and cared deeply for those close to her. We've been so lucky to have the opportunity to bring light back to a case that has been overlooked for years because of the stigma that surrounds her profession and lifestyle. As the sparkle in Rebecca's eyes dimmed, the pictures and memories ignited a flame within her close circle. We thank Rebecca's family and friends for giving us the time to speak and share her story about her daughter. If you have any information, please contact Franklin County Police Department. Anything can help. Rebecca deserves justice. At this time, we'd like to this is in Ohio, so it was. No, it was very good. Yes, their main person of interest, recently passed away. It was the trucker, but now since they're looking into some things some more, some names have been coming up and being put on the list.
the information that they found out, after we gave it to the detective, they went back and looked at the things. And the individual that we found out about was on the original list, but he was at the bottom. And now they moved him up because they found some information that they possibly could find. Something that he had. When he did the first case.
Off of what Mr. Howard was talking about, we were also able to, after our Zoom call with Detective Thompson, with some other stories that, alleged stories that we heard from Rachel, her sister, we were able to, they ended up having a meeting with some of those people that we mentioned, which is definitely helpful for them, and they're definitely thankful to have that Zoom call to share that with them.
Seeing as how the body was so decomposed, was there any suspicion that it was perhaps dumped anywhere further higher up the river, closer to anywhere else, and it simply had drifted as time went on?
So on the autopsy, there was, a location where they believed the body was dumped and a location where it was also found. But I mean, they had theories that she had been in the creek for 4 months.
Yeah, she was missing for months, and her body wasn't so decomposed where there was just like bones, but there was still skin visible. It was just like.
Good job.
Early morning, May 5th, 2007. The bright Saturday sun shone on a small farm in Delaware, Ohio. Farmhand Rick Paddingale enjoyed his peaceful, warm morning. Was tending to the animals on the farm, completing his daily duties of changing out their water or giving them food. But as the sun continued to rise, Rick began to feel that sinking feeling. The one you get when something isn't quite right and your worst fear is fighting run. Rick realized Evelyn had not been able to help him yet, as she always did. While turning to view the stone farmhouse behind him, searching for any sign of Evelyn, he noticed the evidence that something horrible had happened. A slashed window, propped up ladder, ransacked room. Evelyn Ashbaugh, an active animal lover, a proud aunt, sister, and daughter, brutally murdered. This is her story.
Evelyn was a woman who cared tremendously for animals and owned long and Evelyn farms. She spent the beginning years of her life learning how to ride horses, and her animal passion grew from there. She lived the majority of her life in Ohio, but unfortunately we don't know much about Evelyn personally, as family and friends were uncomfortable opening up. But we believe this quote from her niece sums up exactly how amazing she was. I've never felt closer to her than I do now. I would do anything just to see her in the physical. I love her so much, and I will see her in the afterlife. We found Evelyn was perceived as a standoffish or grumpy person in the community. But once again, reading what people close to her say in her obituary, it is clear that that is not an accurate representation. An old farmhand said, Evelyn was a smart woman with a very large heart for wellness and for the people she cared for. She was known to be eccentric and unconventional, but personally happy nonetheless. It is clear Evelyn liked to keep her circle small. She had many close girlfriends that she kept in contact with, but was never married nor had any children. Her romantic relationships seemed to bounce around often, and there was an intense speculation on her sexuality. In a rural area at the time, homosexuality could be a possible cause of her strange social reputation. As she was earlier described as an aunt, daughter, and sister, we can see she had a very large family. Both of her parents are now dead, along with one of her sisters. But from the numerous names in her family tree and notes from those who loved her, she was active in her family. She was educated with an associate degree and bounced around jobs often, from Napa to AT&T, but her true passion lay in her farm. She was active in her community, heading to the local theater,
or restaurants often. One restaurant in particular, Talis, which was a Mexican diner that was so often seen by her that they always knew she was dining based on her enchilada order. And although to most this seems like a woman who's enjoying Mexican food, we see this as a gateway in her character. Evelyn was adventurous, outgoing, and above all, not afraid to make things how she wanted. Moving back to Evelyn's house, the house itself was located directly off the main interstate, right next to the local high school, so it would have been easy to access her quaint farmhouse. The house itself was on a large plot of land, and at the time was not overly developed by neighbors. We must digress that Evelyn and her relatives did not appear to keep the house or land in great condition, but due to its sequestered state, this did not appear to cause much conflict, and it was rather acceptable to have a farm with these conditions.
Evelyn lived north of Delaware City, in the less dense country. High levels of crime happen in the actual city part, but nowhere near Evelyn's house. In fact, Delaware is safer than 36% of all Ohio cities. They only have 2 cold cases in recent years, if not more assault.
Like we said, Evelyn was very active and there was no shortness of places to be in Delaware. With rumors for sexuality and personality, it seems typical of small-town gossip, but Delaware was nowhere near small. We talked to Captain Savage of Delaware Police Department to find out more.
It's a fast-growing community. The city of Columbus keeps pushing northbound into Delaware County, and people have relocated from there for many reasons, because of the good school districts. Old Candy Schools in Delaware County is the 4th largest school district in the state of Ohio. Only behind Columbus and Cleveland, and it's either Cincinnati or Toledo, one of those. So, and so people come up there for the good school districts. As far as the community and the word gossipy, I don't know. It's still, even though it's become a larger or bigger city, it still has a small town feel at times where people know each other. They're familiar with faces. There's still that downtown feel to the city where people come, and there's independent stores and independent restaurants. Not like the there's not like the Applebee's and Red Lobster type of restaurants. There's just hometown restaurants, and so gathering places. And so I think Delaware still offers that, even though it continues to grow. I would say that, there's still those areas where people would get together and congregate and speak about local things going on in the community.
Okay,
As a reminder before we get into our investigation, the crime took place on May 5th, 2007. Evelyn was sleeping in her upstairs bedroom where she was brutally stabbed up to 10 times. The perpetrators ransacked her room and left her to succumb to her injuries. Evelyn was not found until the morning by one of her farm hands, Rick Pattengale, after hours of waiting for Evelyn on the farm. The authorities arrived at the scene and found Evelyn dead, and her estimated time of death was between 1 and 9 a.m. We have to acknowledge that most of the information we are about to share comes from the news article we found with Evelyn. We are able to confirm the full validity, but the information that Captain Savage shared with us circumstantially checks out with information we have found in existing newspapers and articles. We'll be using aliases to refer to those we found in our research. We are in no way accusing or suspecting anyone of their involvement in the case.
we began our investigation with a basic Google search on Evelyn. That's when we found testimonies with previously read her obituaries, basic facts about the case, but most importantly, our first lead. An online platform called Reddit is one you may be familiar with. It's a social media platform, all dedicated to subreddits, which are public forums dedicated to each topic. To our surprise, 2 subreddits detail Evelyn's case. The second subreddit we'll get into a bit, but didn't have anything helpful towards us at this time. The one subreddit, though, had a comment from a Delawarean herself, who spoke of a car left outside of Evelyn's house the night of murder. We are unable to confirm the validity of this statement or get a hold of the commenter, but it let us know some of the strange things that happened that night. The truck in the ditch would have been able to carry the wooden ladder up to Evelyn's bedroom and allow the perpetrator to make his getaway. But we're not sure the car was ever actually there at all. Rick Pattengale, the foreman who found Evelyn, was another person we were unfortunately not able to connect with. But he was willing at the time to be interviewed by multiple news sources and was heard giving thought-provoking statements about Evelyn's case. He depicted money troubles and general farm issues. As he went on the search for Evelyn that Saturday morning, he called one of her girlfriends to be with them as he walked through the house. Savage Shores is just what Patty Hill called Evelyn's friends, but with the question of her sexuality, we're not so sure.
As we furthered our investigation, we remained many dead ends. Family members were understandably not keen on talking to us, but it came to light that maybe the family was having strain externally. Not only did Evelyn have an intense history of foreclosures, but her extended family also had an interesting personal property history. Daniel D., Evelyn's nephew, received her house for free from her sister. Why? We were unable to get a hold of Daniel and his interesting transaction, but opened the questions towards Evelyn's house. To operate the farm and the house, Evelyn had many financial investors. She was known for not being completely financially responsible, and this raises the concern of a possible motive for killing Evelyn. To get money back or send a message about what happens to those who not.
But before we get hung up too much on revenge killing, there's other parts of Evelyn's story that do not make sense. That ice cream restaurant from earlier was about 45 minutes away from Evelyn's house in Grove City, Ohio. And there seems to be no reasonable explanation to travel so far for enchiladas
Until we found another subreddit post. Locked out for privacy, this comment from another Delawarean paints an extremely strong picture. That picture includes romantic involvement and money troubles. For privacy reasons, we'll be using the letter E to refer to this next individual who may be linked to this case. E would be Evelyn's supposed partner at the time, who's experiencing strain in the relationship. Another individual who may have been capturing Evelyn's attention in a supposed love triangle. If this wasn't motivation enough, we believe this individual may have worked for Evelyn on the farm and was experiencing troubles with their pay. We passed this information along to Captain Savage because it wasn't posted that long ago.
But does this story, one about lack of pay or romantic involvement, does that match Evelyn's injuries? Evelyn's injuries was that of a crime of passion. She was stabbed multiple times in the lower neck, upper chest area, very deeply, perforating jugular vein and multiple layers of tissue. There are multiple theories of her death. We know she was sleeping that night. We don't know if she was on her back or her side, but we do know she had multiple abrasions on her hands, like she was trying to put them up in order to protect herself. But besides that, whoever had killed Evelyn would have to know that she was not sleeping in the master bedroom that night. Her house has multiple bedrooms, and the master is actually on the first floor. In fact, we would have had to know that she's sleeping in that exact bedroom. There are no other signs of forced entry into the house besides that slash window across the ladder. Speaking about the ladder was extremely heavy. It's a really big wooden ladder, and would have been able to carry it. They also would have had to have a proper motive to kill Evelyn because of the money trouble. This person we're talking about, E, they went on to have a lot of drug problems and domestic violence issues after the incident, and even prior to. They were found with cocaine in Grove City, Ohio, which may be evidence of their relationship.
We must digress that the information we just shared is from our perspective of research. Not only do we have hope for our case, but there is also hope for the case overall. Captain Savage called Evelyn Ashwell's case lukewarm due to the fact that there is still new information being found, and we believe that they have not exhausted all their options. We want to thank everyone for coming out to see our presentation today. If Evelyn's story piqued your interest or you believe that you have a tip on her case, we highly encourage you to contact the Delaware County Sheriff's Office at the number, address, or email listed here. If you've also taken a particular interest in Evelyn's case as we did, there's never any harm in having a fresh set of eyes take a look. In fact, the more the merrier, and the closer we can get to finding out the truth of what happened on May 5th, 2007. This is Evelyn Ashwell's case. I'm Katie Toro.
I'm Maddie Dawson.
And I'm Shepherd.
Thank you for listening.
We would now like to open the board to questions, comments.
When they, so they came in the house through the ladder through the window, is that how they got out also?
When we talked to Captain Savage, she wasn't really able to tell us anything besides the fact that there were no other signs of forced entry. But we would suspect that they probably didn't get out that way.
And then you said that it was ransacked. Did they, as far as motive is concerned, was anything stolen?
Nothing was stolen, but with the money troubles we were talking about, perhaps they were looking for money in the bedroom.
kind of on a similar note there, so since their house was ransacked, did they find any evidence of struggle, or was it purely that one person ransacking them, driving them?
We do believe it's one person that did that murder to one. Based off of some of the injuries she had, it appears she tried to fight back with it, but if I were to speculate, I would say the ransacking happened. And it was, her bedroom was the only place that was ransacked, the rest of the house was not. And also, the guy digressed that the inside of the house also wasn't kept in the best condition, so.
Do they know a reason why she wasn't sleeping in the master bedroom that night?
And,
Something about her having roommates, but
yeah, so she has had in her life a lot of foreclosures on properties along with multiple investors within like the fund and things like that. And so it is reasonable to suspect that possibly other people were living in the house to help her pay for it, but.
What about fingerprints, like on the ladder or on things that they ransacked?
So when we asked about evidence, we, Captain Savage, who we worked with the Delaware, wasn't able to tell us much about it. In fact, the only thing he was really able to tell us that she was killed in the night. But we do know that in 2012, they reopened the case because they had DNA evidence that they were able to start looking into, but nothing ever actually came of that evidence.
Was the ladder on the farm or was it brought in from the outside?
So originally, we believe the ladder came from the farm, and we read it in one news article, but it was never backed up by any other source. So we're not exactly sure, but we would assume it'd be mentioned more than once.
Do they have any suspects?
So, sorry. Savage told us that they talked to and interviewed over 80 people for this case. He never specifically told us that they had like one person they're looking into. When he was guiding us, he said that like look for people that were like helping out on the farm and things like that. So the majority of things that I know, like the police department was looking at, were people that were 14, 41.
Is there anyone that's still around the farm today that could potentially be a person of interest?
So I think this might be important to know. I tried to find where the llamas went after Evelyn passed, and the person the llamas went to, when I finally was able to find out who it was, died 2 days before I was able to contact her. So I was not able to reach out. Good job.
It was the 1st of December in 2004. We were branch of the Scioto River in Delaware County, Ohio. A hunter was out in the woods looking for his lost dog. He then sees a glimpse of something odd in the foliage. He slowly realizes what he had stumbled upon: skeletal remains. He holds his breath, hoping it isn't his dog, but the truth is much worse. The hunter had unintentionally stumbled upon the remains of a case that had been long unsolved, a moment that would alter the entire course of it. The remains were identified as Stacy Colbert. After she disappeared without a trace, shrouded in mystery, leaving her friends and family devastated. Just 6 years earlier, Stacy's sister Danielle let herself into Stacy's apartment, not knowing that her life would forever change and not knowing that she would never see Stacy again. Stacy's apartment was empty, but messy all the same, just how Stacy had kept it. It was an echo of the charismatic, ambitious, and chaotic girl that she was. She shines like a light to anyone who met her. Even 26 years after her disappearance, she was remembered with affection by anyone who knew her. This is her story.
a story more people should know about, and a story we want to share with you today. I'm Alexa Dahl. I'm Donna Shea. And this is the story of Stacy Colbert. Stacy Colbert was remembered by everyone as someone very ambitious. She had just graduated from Ohio State just a year before, and she had big city dreams that she wanted to go after. Something that everyone told us was that Stacy went after what she wanted, and she was fearless about it. Her friends called her a go-getter and very extroverted, and they always said that her presence in a room was always noticed. She had a big, comforting presence in the room, and was very charismatic to all who knew her. She was the kind of person you could kind of talk to and feel a connection with right away as if you were friends. She always welcomed people and felt comforting. But she was also a very passionate person. She knew what she wanted and she didn't let people tell her what to do. And that's why her family and friends remember her so much today. We have a clip from Paula Shoup on the slide, who's actually here with us today, describing Stacy so that you guys will be able to understand.
And she was not afraid to be who she was. And if you didn't like her, that didn't stop her, that didn't bring her down. She had the most positive outlook on life. The only person I've ever met that even was close to it is her niece. Of course, we never got to meet her, but she has so much at Stacy's spirit in her. She was loyal, she was a great listener, she was funny. Gosh, she just had a really great qualities. Yeah.
The night before her disappearance, it was Saturday, March 21st, 1998. Stacy was in her Governor's Square apartment, which was very close by to the Ohio State campus, and she had just got home from a night out. She was packing her suitcases for a conference she had the next week in New York. It was a business conference with her boss that she was really excited about. You know, it's furthering her career and her dreams. So she was packing her suitcases, excited for this conference, when she ordered Papa John's breadsticks to her apartment, which would probably be shortly after she returned to her apartment. And the delivery person who delivered the breadsticks to her apartment is the last known person to see her alive. He reported later that he felt she was alone. On February 3rd, 1975, Stacy was 24 years old when she died. She was small at 5'1", weighed 125 pounds. She had brown hair and brown. Stacy grew up in Charleston, Illinois, city near Chicago. She was very close with her mother, Lana Colbert, but closely resembled her father, Lawrence Colbert's personality. Her and her sister Danielle were inseparable, and Danielle described her as always laughing and fiercely entertaining herself. Despite having to learn disability, Stacy developed an important initiative. She succeeded in high school. She was on the varsity tennis team, she rose on the shoes and tennis. All of that got her into Ohio University after 2 years at a community college on business administration. Attending Ohio State was somewhat of a family tradition, as Stacy's older sister Danielle had also attended. The two sisters got closer with their time at Ohio State and would often get coffee together. Stacy became fast friends with the girls in her sorority, Alpha Delta Pi, and she later became the vice president of it. She was very involved with going to parties and doing recruitment activities. A sorority sister, Paula, the clip you heard from before, describes Stacy as having an unapologetic nature, a huge love for 80s music. She lit up any room with her smile. She was life of parties, had such a positive outlook on life. Some of her friends would even call her Spacey for her clumsy nature, but all in all, her loyalty shone through every friendship that she had. We now have a clip from Heather, another sorority sister and friend of Stacy.
One of the things that stands out to me is that she was not influenced by what other people did. She did what she thought was right when it was regardless of what others thought. So she was she loved to go out. She loved to hang out. I never really knew her to have like a serious boyfriend, but she was also very true to herself.
So Stacy's senior year in 1996, Her hard work definitely shone through when she landed the internship with McDonald's for the Olympic Games in Atlanta, Georgia. As a recent grad, Stacey lived in her Governor's Square apartment, just really close to the high state campus. She worked at American Electric Power, where her boss and coworkers only had amazing things to say about her. That's why when she didn't show up to work for 2 days, they knew something was off.
That Tuesday, AUP called Danielle, her sister, because it'd been a couple days. It would now have been the second morning where she hadn't showed up to work. And that was really unusual for someone like Stacy, who was dedicated and motivated and usually always showed up to work. So they were concerned immediately and called Danielle. And after this, Danielle went to Stacy's apartment to see where Stacy would have been. And unfortunately, her apartment was completely empty. And this is when Danielle started to get very concerned, and this is also when she brought in the police. So she reported her missing to the police that same day after not finding her in the apartment. The day before, Danielle had also called Stacy, and Stacy hadn't responded, but at the time she didn't see it as anything too concerning, kind of just assuming that Stacy was busy, but after she saw that her apartment was empty, she realized that it was probably something much bigger. Later, the neighbors will tell the police that they heard female screams early morning on Sunday at around 4 a.m. And later that day at 2 p.m., her cat Boots was also found roaming outside her apartment, which was unusual because her cat stayed inside the apartment. So unless someone let the cat out purposefully, it would not have been roaming around the apartment complex. So it's likely that someone might have left it open carelessly after the incident and then her cat had got out, or something had happened to her and she had been inattentive to her cat because what was going on. But interestingly, her other neighbors said they heard no screams that night, despite having a history of complaining about Stacy and the loud noises in her apartment. Yet they said they heard nothing that night. But all of this was not found out until later when the police questioned the neighbors, and they did not really report any of this immediately. The police only got involved 3 days later by Danielle, as I said before, and through that they found out that Saturday, the night that she went out, she was at the Arlington Sports Bar with some of her coworkers, and she had left early at around 6 p.m., saying that she had to go feed her cat, and so that was when she returned to her apartment. And when she returned to her apartment, that was when she ordered the breadsticks, and unfortunately, the police believe that she was murdered shortly after.
When the police arrived on scene, they immediately said that had been someone shooter. The door was unlocked, and there was no sign of forced entry. Nothing was stolen, and the crime scene was ready to move. There were clothes thrown about. The refrigerator door was left open. The breadsticks were left half eaten on the counter. There was a bootprint on the inside of the door and a small handprint on the floor and floor. There was a broken vertical blind by the back door and broken rungs on the kitchen table. There was also a dusty swipe across the TV, which could have been from hair or a softener. The apartment also smelled strongly of bleach, and the police took a carpet sample, but we're not sure why exactly, and we're not sure the results of that were.
The oddest thing, according to her friends and family, was there was 2 pieces of jewelry that she never took off. There was a necklace that she got from the sorority house that she was in, and had the eye signet in the middle of it on a thin portion. The other was a ring with a gold band with an amethyst stone in the rose. For 6 years, the investigation continued for the body of the cat. Stacy was assumed to be murdered. There was no autopsy to contact and no body to examine. In 2004, however, a hunter accidentally stumbled upon skeletal remains. They were identified with general records as Stacy Cooper. She was discovered in Fulton County around 45 minutes from her Governor's Square apartment. When the other was found, her state route to 57. The remains were present. Only 70% of the remains were found, and 30% were not found. Unfortunately, we're not able to get an autopsy report, but Captain Kevin said the captain of Delaware County Police Department told us that her bones were in good condition, and the medical examiner could not find any sign of strangulation or injury. Medicals were found in her body. Years later, the remainder of the methods of death are unclear, but the most possible death was strangulation, without breaking the hiding. So
the investigation started at Columbus Police Department, because that is where Stacy had lived at the time. And they started by talking to neighbors, anyone they think could know any information or be involved in any way. They kind of went down a strategic list, and they talked to the neighbors first. But they hit some roadblocks with the neighbors not knowing the information or just not being willing to talk to them. So they soon entered her into a missing persons database and made the case soon cold. So then in 2004, the case was transferred to Delaware County Police Department. And they tried to go off all their own leads, but it was very difficult because they had no DNA evidence, like no autopsy really that they had from the Columbus Police Department. They later released they had two main leads or people of interest, but did not state who. However, we do believe that the crime was personal, likely a man, somebody that Stacy knew and felt comfortable to let into her house herself, as there were no signs of forced entry, so she could open the door to somebody that she knew. And also we think that it could be a crime of passion, maybe an argument gone south. We also have a clip from Captain Kevin Savage.
And it was a farmer who, or a hunter, somebody that was on this property, farm, and discovered what they thought was a human skull. They may have located a human skull. So we sent some, initially we sent deputies out. We get calls like this randomly where it ends up being like animal. In this case, and other similar ones, this actually had the appearance of an actual human skull, and we decided to create a crime scene around that. So we secured the area of where it was located, and that began our investigation.
So this was where our investigation started, all the way back in September 2023, when Stacy's story immediately caught all of our eyes, and we all wanted to know more. The first thing we found was Finishing Stacy's Fight, which is a Facebook page dedicated to finding justice for Stacy and posting any relevant information about her to the public. The Facebook page was very helpful in, helping us understand the first parts of her story, but more helpful than the page itself was the person behind it, Paula Shoup, who we have mentioned before. She was Stacy's friend and also a sorority sister, and she helped us so much with our investigation. She opened the door to so many other resources, and through her we were able to contact Heather Sargent and Danielle Newcomb, which Danielle is her sister, as we mentioned previously, and Heather, we did play a clip from her. She was also a friend and another sorority sister. And it was thanks to these three people that we were able to truly understand who Stacy was as a person. Stacy's impact on them was so large, and it was reflected in everything they said to us. We could tell how much they loved her and how much of a good person she was. So thank you to Paula and Danielle and Heather for telling us about Stacy and helping us understand her. We also talked to the Delaware County Police Department, more specifically Captain Kevin Savage, who was helpful in the details of the investigation. So a lot of the slides about the body and the condition it was in was through him. So of course, a thank you to the police department for being communicative and giving that information to us.
So when we were looking at this case, we looked into the idea that it could have been a past lover, someone she was close to. So we gathered information on the relationships and relationship history. And we found out that Stacy was not really interested in relationships. She would flirt and still have parties, but never really settle with anyone. As we mentioned before, she was very charismatic, so she could have fallen in with the wrong crowd. She had many guy friends, but she was what people call a lady over romantically. The only real boyfriend she had was Steve Blosser, who was devastated and not willing to be involved in her disappearance. She was, however, casually hanging out with another man. It's not clear if they were dating or not in the late 1997 or early 1998. We're not going to say his name for privacy reasons, but his name can be used to have a podcast before his criminal history. He was the same age as Stacy and had a violent history. In 2021, he was charged with aggravated assault in Atlanta, Georgia, when he chased his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend out with a baseball bat. He likely liked her more than she liked him and wanted more of a relationship than she did with the department.
We also kept in mind the neighbors. So as I mentioned before, the upstairs neighbors heard noises and screams in the middle of the night and came down and saw her cat wandering out the next day, but never called the police. And the next door neighbor who frequently complains about noise claims to not hear anything, so we definitely want to keep them in mind. And we also just thought of any past boyfriends and anybody that she might have had some sort of romantic relationship, maybe it wasn't exactly boyfriend, but somebody that they were interested in each other. Just keep those people in mind. If they have unknown involvement and are not speculated to have any involvement, we're just going to keep them in mind. We want to make it clear that we are not accusing anyone. No one is named a suspect by law enforcement. We are just stating what we know and information we found from podcasts and articles. Today, Stacy would have been 49 years old, and to this day, her case is still being worked on. Her family and friends continue fighting 26 years later.
The Finishing Stacy's Fight social media pages that helped us so much are still active and they still want justice. We also have a GoFundMe link to the page for hierarchy Irish to get more attention to the case. If you have any information, any of all, please contact the Delaware County Police.
We want to thank Mr. Miller for guiding us throughout our case and everyone who helped us along with the case as well. Thank you for listening, and if you have, and join us in the Mission Stacy's Fight. We're now open for the questions.
So I noticed that there was a male footprint found at the door in one of the slides. Were there any lift prints done, and was that matched up to the guy who chased his girlfriend's
So
boyfriend around the back?
really came about that evidence. We do know that it was in the inside of the door, implying that like the door was kicked closed from the inside, like trying to keep her in. But there was nothing from the police that we saw that came of any of those blueprints, and like nothing was matched with the male suspect or person of interest we were talking about earlier.
And unfortunately, like, shoe sizes are very general, so it's hard to get a specific match or any type of evidence like that out of them. And since this is still an open investigation, the police cannot disclose everything to us, so there's not much we can do.
What was the state of the apartment? Was it like, was there signs of struggle? I know they said the one vertical blind, but was there signs of struggle?
Really not a lot, really just the blueprint was one thing that caught our eye, but her apartment was kind of messy, but she was about to leave for a trip with her boss for work. So that could have been the reason why it was messy and like clothes were thrown about. But
There was no forced entry, which is one of the main reasons we thought it could be someone she knows, because she would have to let them in. Other than that, like she said, it was messy, and it also looked like Stacy kind of left it in the middle of something. Like the breadsticks were still on the counter, the fridge was still open. It was very much frozen in time. Like she was just kind of picked out of it, which goes to show that it probably was something very sudden, most likely a crime of passion.
About the conversation we had the other day during the practice, about how she got home.
oh, so she got home from a coworker who we believe was male, but I don't think he was like interviewed or anything by the police. So that's something that we definitely want to further research, because we kind of came up with that idea like not that long ago. So we definitely want to research that idea more later on.
Do you think that the police could have treated her case differently when they believed it was just a missing persons, and maybe that's why they may not have talked to that guy she was with versus when it became a homicide, that's when they were more interested? Do you think that could have been possible?
I definitely think it could have been possible. I mean, because they really did not have a lot of information to go off of when she was missing. Like there was like no speculation with really anyone that they had in mind.
Yeah, unfortunately, her body was missing for 6 years. So in that time, a lot of evidence is lost, and a lot of people they might have talked to might have been lost. And when she went missing, it was treated as a missing persons case, and so that has different protocol. And so unfortunately, that's probably one of the reasons why it's hard to find answers in this case.
What method was used to determine that it was her from the beginning?
It was the dental records that they found.
What is called as complete.
So I'd like for all of you, for a moment, to just close your eyes. And I want you to think to yourself, imagine the kindest person that you know. Someone who'd be there for you in times of trial and tribulation. Someone who truly had a heart of gold. Someone who would be willing to give you the shirt off their back. Now, to many of you, this may be a spouse, it could be a parent, it could be a sibling, it could be a friend. But to the family of Gianna Perry and Charles Clymer, they knew exactly who I was talking about the moment we mentioned kindness.
And that's why it was so outlandish to the family from the community surrounding Gianna Perry, Charles Clymer, and Brianna Smith that the heinous act of arson took place at their home on October 15th, 2010. I'm Ryan Searles.
And I'm Emilio Gomes de Leon.
And today we're going to be telling a story about Gianna Perry, Charles Clymer, and Brianna Smith. First and foremost, this case stood out to us because Gianna, Brianna, and Charles seemed to be normal people, normal and kind people who didn't have something like this, didn't have to have something like this happen to them. This is why we believe that this case deserves the recognition.
Now, before we get into the case itself, we look at the actual people who they were. So, Gianna Perry lived in Franklin County and was part of a very large family. She was one of 8 siblings. It was a very close, very tight-knit family, the kind where being there at the family table during Thanksgiving or Christmas was an expectation. Now, she lived there with her husband, Ray Perry, her grandson, Charles Clymer, and his father, Charles Howard. Now, it wasn't just her family who lived there at that home. Gianna Perry was well known in the community for taking people in, people who needed a place to stay, people who needed shelter, people who needed a warm meal. At the time, she had invited in a homeless woman named Kristen Smith and her daughter, Brianna Smith. Due to some internal tensions, Kristen Smith did end up leaving the home. However, Gianna offered to let Brianna Smith stay, especially since she was fighting a cold at the time. They didn't want her out in the streets.
Initially, we started on Google trying to synthesize all the public information that was out there. We found articles dating all the way back to the day of the crime, and found some that happened to the anniversary about 2 years ago. This told us that the articles are still trying to keep the case relevant and keep the story back out there. We tried to contact all the reporters of the most recent articles, and some of them have gotten back to us, but none of them actually worked on the case except for the people at Decker who gave us his case file.
Now, on the morning of October 15th, 2010, on 128 North Yale Avenue, at around 4:30 a.m., Ray Perry and Charles Howard had both left the house at the same time to leave for their machining jobs. Not long after, around only 5:08 a.m., the next door neighbor would be woken up by the thunderous roar of a great fire burning down the house next door. She immediately, firefighters got there extremely quickly. However, it was just too late. As you can see in the picture up here, the house burned down extremely quickly. So quickly, in fact, that around 12 p.m., investigators had ruled it an arson. They found that gasoline had been poured around the entire side of the house, and Molotov cocktails were thrown from outside onto the front porch. It was very clear that the person who set this fire not only wanted to burn down the entire house quickly, but they didn't want anyone escaping.
The following audio clip is from an interview that we had with Rebecca Price, Gianna Perry's daughter and Charles' mother.
They loved my mom. She was literally like the most caring, genuine, giving person anybody would ever meet. Everybody in the neighborhood called her mama.
Now, Rebecca wasn't the only person to say positive things about Gianna. Every article that we read and every person that we talked to only had positive things to say about Gianna. She was a very active member of the community, like Rebecca just said. Everyone called her mama. She was a loving and caring woman with a beautiful soul. She touched so many lives. She would give the shirt off your back, a hot meal, or warm kisses there. She was truly one of a kind. And she would take care of people in need, such as Kristen Smith and Brianna Smith.
Now, in that same interview with Rebecca Price, we got to learn about her son, Charles Clymer. As she said herself, he grew up to be a good man. He'd go to work, come home, and play video games. He was an avid gamer. He was funny, smart, and caring, a gentle giant. We got to learn about his person and who he was. We got to learn about his love for fishing, his love for traveling. But most importantly, we got to learn how similar he was to his grandmother. And the part of the community that he played. He was always extremely protective of his siblings and caring.
Now, what exactly did we do over these couple of months researching this case? We found this case on Ohio Attorney General Unsolved Murders, or eventually we started researching it on all the articles we saw before. All the articles stated names of retired fire chiefs and detectives. However, the main detective working on the case originally, Patricia Daly, has since passed away in 2021, and the retired fire chief has not gotten back to us. With that, with them not contacting us yet, we decided to shift our focus to family members by the use of Facebook, where we found Rebecca Price in the replies of a Facebook article. And then we used Messenger to set up a phone call interview with her, and that led us to talk to some of her other family members as well. Which is why we'd like to thank Rebecca Price and Lucas Henderson for giving us their time, their days, to talk about something so sensitive to them. They gave us so much valuable information that will let us accurately represent Deanna and Charles in this presentation.
Now, although we were unable to contact any of the detectives or the fire chiefs, we did send through a FOIA request that got us a lot of detail about the case itself. We got some coroner's reports that gave us a lot of crucial information about their deaths. Now, when they had died, there was no outside traumatic injuries, of course, other than the burns shown around them. So it is likely that they died from the fire. As a matter of fact, their carboxyhemoglobin levels from inhaling carbon monoxide from the fire were as high as 72% in Deanna Perry and 88% in Brianna Smith. Now, interestingly enough, Charles actually had a lower carboxyhemoglobin level at only 34%, and this was because he was not actually found in the home, but he had jumped out of a window in an attempt to escape. It was suspected due to his location that he had actually tried to save Deanna and Brianna before falling to his death.
Before we get into the active theory section, we want to explain that none of these are concrete facts. We're not accusing anybody of a crime, so take these with a grain of salt. In a phone call interview that we had with Lucas Henderson, he stated that Kristen Smith's boyfriend had been threatening Kristen Smith days before the fire, saying, "Watch where you and that baby lay that head tonight." He also explained that Kristen Smith and her boyfriend had connections to gang relations in Detroit, which led us to believe that multiple people were involved in the ignition of this fire. If Kristen Smith's boyfriend is the initial person of interest, it also means that Deanna was likely not the main target, as it would be Brianna Smith instead. Many people did come and go from Deanna's home though, so it was possible that one of them could have also been the target. But Columbus did have a very high crime rate, so it could have been a very random act of violence. However, since the fashion of this fire was so violent, it was likely a aimed attack. Some next steps that we have are to get into contact with previous detectives on the case, find out the exact manner in which the fire was started so we can narrow down the suspects, and then work with the Columbus Police Department to try and find potential information.
Now, although the sanctuary that was once the home of Brianna Smith and Charles Clymer was burned down, that plot of land still stands as a sanctuary to this day. All the love that Deanna Perry had given to her community was given back when a community garden was set up, where an annual candlelight vigil is held in remembrance of Deanna Perry, Charles Clymer, and Brianna Smith. If anyone has any information regarding this place, please contact the Columbus Fire Division or Crime Stoppers through their anonymous tip section. We would now like to open the floor to any questions regarding the case.
What was the strange thing with the boyfriend and Brianna's mom?
So they didn't, they weren't actually, they didn't really love each other. It was most likely a strained relationship. Kristen Smith was addicted to drugs, so maybe she felt like she didn't really have a voice or any control in her life. So her and their relationship with her boyfriend was very strained, and they weren't actually a loving couple.
On that note, because their relationship was so strained, they didn't hang out with each other very much. However, ever so conveniently, on the exact night of the fire was one of the few and only times where Kristen's boyfriend was ever seen actually hanging out with Kristen. So we believe it may be possible that he was trying to alibi up while having some other people, as you mentioned, he had ties to gangs in Detroit, burn the fire for him
we don't know what the connection was between the argument. We don't know why she asked her to leave.
No, not exactly, no.
Whatever happened to Kristen Smith?
We don't know much about Kristen Smith beyond that point. We do know she attended some of the prayer life vigils. However, she was addicted to drugs, so I don't think anybody interviewed her in any of the articles or anything like that. As I said before, she may have not felt like she had enough control over her life or anything like that.
She was also homeless, so many of the reporters were not able to actually get a hold of her.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming this evening. As you can tell, they put their hearts into this. And all the individuals that they talked about, gotta be remembered for who they were and not what happened to them, or what kind of lifestyle they led and things like that. That's part of looking into these things, is finding out who they truly were. Because if you can find out truly who they were, you might be able to figure out, who was with them at the time. So that's kind of what we were trying to do out of this. I hope you know that they wanted to honor the victims with as much heart as they could. And I really appreciate what you have done tonight. And thank you very much. Thank you. If anybody has any more questions, they'll be outside in the hallway and they answer your questions. Thank you.